introduction about me. My name is Zunaira Ramal. I'm a Global Innovation Fellow at CCIT Global. I welcome you all to the Medjack webinar series version 4.0, and this is our inaugural webinar series session. Allow me to offer a brief overview of our series for those who might be new to the community. We launched a book back in 2021 that is AQ's first ebook called Medjack. It contains all the experiences of CCIT encompassing both the highs as well as the lows. And it's been co-authored by a total of 14 authors. And each time we use a chapter of our book as a conversation starter. We invite our panelists and we provide them with the chance to share their journey around innovation, creativity, and entrepreneurship, which we like to call as ICE. With that, I would like to introduce our esteemed moderator for today's session, Dr. Asatnya. Dr. Asad wears multiple hats as a professor in emergency medicine and as a director of CCIT Global. His wealth and expertise experience adds a unique dimension to our discussions. Thank you, Dr. Asad. Moving forward, we are also privileged to have Dr. Alexandra Asrow as a guest. Dr. Alexandra is a board-certified emergency physician and fellow of the American College of Emergency Physicians from Chicago. Her rich academic background includes a bachelor's in science from Brown University, studies at the University of Bologna and the University of Torino as a Fulbright scholar, and an MD from the University of Illinois at Chicago College of Medicine. Dr. Asrow, who completed her residency at Amita Health Resurrection in Chicago, is also a clinical assistant professor at both the University of Chicago Pritzker School of Medicine and the University of Illinois College of Medicine. She serves as the lead ambassador to Italy and Finland for the American College of Emergency Physicians and is actively involved in EU SEM, IFEM, and Fulbright. Thank you, Dr. Alexandra, for being with us.
Thank you.
And with that, I'd like to open the floor for Dr. Asad.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Zunaira. So for all of you over here, welcome. And Zunaira was kind enough to get us started. Zunaira actually has completed her innovation fellowship with us. And so although she called herself still, I'm really happy to hear that you're still considering yourself a fellow. But Zunaira is a biomedical engineer and she was really modest. She did not introduce herself at all. And she's completed this fellowship, innovation fellowship with us. We're hoping and we're looking ahead to seeing great things from Zunaira. So before I get going, okay, just a few housekeeping points. If people could just kind of mute themselves, and if you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the chat space, or you can unmute yourself. We want this whole session to be really interactive. We don't want just to be the people who are talking like Lexi and myself. We want people to kind of interject and make this a lot more energetic. Okay, and so feel free to put your comments and questions, and Zunaira, you can also moderate and let us know how we're doing on time. So we're trying something different. This is the fourth iteration of the Medjack webinar series. So this time, and Lexi knows that, I don't know whether she knows entirely, but the two things that we're going to do differently. Overall, the time we're going to give this session will be about 45 minutes, right? So we've got started. We want this to be a quick, kind of fast-paced session as well. And so we don't want to keep everybody here for the hour. And so if things are moving along really nicely, we will let you out of this space within a total of about 45 minutes. So it all depends on how you are interacting with us, okay? So if people are not asking questions and comments, then Lexi and I will keep talking as well, okay? Until we, and you'll have to stick around for the hour. Second thing we're going to do differently, and that's going to be an entire surprise for people. And I will not tell you because it's a surprise, okay? And Zunaira knows, okay? So I'll keep that a surprise. Okay, so how do I know Lexi? Okay, so Zunaira gave us a really nice introduction, and that was an academic introduction to Lexi. Lexi and I met last year at ASAP International. Well, ASAP actually. ASAP is American College of Emergency Physicians, and last year's meeting was in Philadelphia. Philly, right? And this was back in October, right? First week of October, I believe. Yes. And so Lexi is the lead for ASAP International's ambassador program. So a lot of international emergency physicians or global emergency physicians who are practicing outside of the US belong to ASAP International. In fact, ASAP International is the largest section of ASAP. It's a very dynamic section, and there are few people right now on this call who are actually ASAP International representatives as well. And Lupe is online and Omar Abbas. And so, hi all. Thank you for joining. And so I got to know Lexi as the lead for the ambassador program, and we started talking about a lot of things that were of mutual interest. And today Lexi is our speaker for this series. And so this is just one of several, hopefully, interactions and get the conversation, not just to keep the conversation moving, but also to actually start implementing some of the things that we will talk about or Lexi will present to us. Okay, and so having set the stage somewhat, hopefully. So the first question for Lexi is, Lexi, that as you know, that the Medjack webinar series is meant to use one of the chapters of the book Medjack as a conversation starter. And here's the book, the print copy, and people who are not familiar, thank you for. Yes, thanks, Lexi. I gave Lexi that book and I signed it as well while I was in Philly.
Right.
And so for those of you who can access it off of Amazon, the ebook is there for you, okay? So Lexi, we picked chapter 1 for you because chapter 1 really gets the stage set for the rest of the book, the rest of the 9 chapters. And so it talks about very early stage thought process. Why were we thinking about innovation? What were our challenges or frustrations that got us to think about innovation as an intervention? And we were so far off from actually doing anything that was entrepreneurial even, right? We were not even thinking about startup entrepreneurship. So it was very early stage. But in the early stage, there was a lot of fun. There were people, there's a different group that started it off. There's a different lot that moved as this process kind of evolved. So based on your reading of that chapter and your work in emergency medicine or international emergency medicine, what do you think is the need or importance for innovation? Let's start off with just innovation, and we can talk about entrepreneurship in a minute. But in terms of innovation in emergency medicine, specifically international emergency medicine, what are your thoughts around it? And if you could just contain your answer as well, because we want to have additional questions around this as well.
Sure. Well, thanks first of all for having me today. This is great. I'm happy that that we ran into each other and got to talk about the book. And I think I got your last copy that you had with you. So I re-looked at the chapter this morning just to review. And in terms of innovation, I think anyone working in global emergency medicine understands that the reason that this exists is because there are challenges, because it's not the same everywhere, because different countries and different governments don't always approach medicine or training in medicine or specifically emergency medicine with the same importance that we would give it. And so when there's frustrations and challenges that of, and especially in today's world where things are much more connected than they used to be, there's much more open access to a lot of educational materials and just communication between countries of, oh, how are you doing this? Well, here's how we're doing this. How are you doing this? Knowing that there's another way sort of makes it for me at least, and a lot of the people that I work with, it makes it impossible to just sit by and watch things continue the way they are when we know that there's things that can be improved. And, when you try to go through the usual channels and you just get roadblock after roadblock, which seems to happen a lot in this field, you have to figure out a way around it. And I think that it is a skill that as emergency physicians, we are particularly good at. That's, dealing with what's in front of us, figuring out what we can do with it and figuring out a workaround, MacGyvering everything, as we like to say. And I think that's what innovation is in this field, is trying to figure out, okay, well, here's the problem. Here's what we want to do about it. Here's the barriers. Okay, let's figure something else out. And that's what we're good at. That's what our jobs are. So, I think that's why there's so many people doing this, because it's a skill that translates so well to what we learn clinically. And so, for me, as many negatives and horrible things that we've had to deal with over the past 3 years of the pandemic, it's also opened up a lot of new platforms, like we're on Zoom right now. This didn't really exist in a large way more than 4 years ago. You know, different means of communications and different things that people can relate to internationally to find new connections, like, you know, when we were talking at ASAP and finding people who are doing the same things as you and finding new ways to work together. And I think that, you know, as far as innovation goes, you can start yourself, but eventually you have to work with others. You have to, you know, have help and have a team to really make progress. So I think it's a really exciting time actually for this type of work, to find new ways to innovate with all the new technologies and communications and abilities to make new connections with people that we didn't have before existing for us right now.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I mean, that hits on so many important points. And as a spin-off of that first question, what if we were to make that same question more specific to an innovation or incubation, innovation and incubation, ideation kind of a hub? Because the chapter talks about innovation, yes, the need for innovation, but puts that in context of a space, whether it's a virtual space or a quasi-virtual or a hybrid space, doesn't matter. But having that space, like a safe space for ideation, for example, right? What do you think about that? You know, having that safe space where people can share ideas. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts on that?
I think that it's similarly to the innovation part, having a space to be able to talk to others and share experiences and ideas. The time is ripe. You know, we've gone through this last few years and everybody wants support systems. Everybody wants a place to go that is safe, as you said, to talk to others and share ideas and find ways you can do that. And having a home for that, having a hub, like you said, that you have done, you know, with CCIT, that I'm trying to do, you know, with my program, that's your home base. That's where it starts. And it sort of is to me, it's a place to keep things grounded, to have, you know, sort of a mission statement, like, what is the purpose of this? And having that home base, for me at least, you know, creating that for my own program, which I didn't really have before, makes it sort of lets you come back to where you started and why you're doing this, and remember what the purpose is and what direction you want to go. And, you know, it also helps you keep track of everything. We're all busy. We have clinical jobs and other jobs and millions of jobs, and having that home base to have together with the people you're working with, I think is really important. And it also makes you feel good. It makes you feel like you have a place where you belong, where people understand you. And especially in, I keep coming back to this, but especially the way that, you know, the last few years have been, having that space, especially for emergency physicians, I think is really important and therapeutic in a way, to feel like someone understands you and someone is going to help you and support you in whatever projects you're doing, whether it's innovation, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's something else. I think that it's like having your residency program, you know, in the US, especially, people feel very close to their programs. It's like, oh, this is where I'm from. This is where I trained. It's the same idea to me, especially with something that you're creating new, to make that home for others to gather in. That's the whole idea.
Great, excellent, great points. Thank you for that. And so just a reminder for the folks, listen, if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to share, okay, and ask. So Lexi, because you mentioned your own work, let's segue into that. Okay, so tell us about MGLEX, Emergency Medicine Learning Global Learning Exchange, sorry, MGLEX. And what was your inspiration? Why did you put it together? And then we'll get into more questions about it.
Sure.
Tell us what it's about as well. Yeah.
Definitely. So that I see a few people here that kind of know what I'm doing already. I'll call on you later. So MGLEX, Emergency Medicine Global Learning Exchange, started officially as that entity in 2021. It actually started years before as a sort of different version of what it is now. I'll tell you what it is now, and I'll tell you how it started. Basically, it's a nonprofit organization that I started to support an exchange program that I had started before the nonprofit, as sort of an experiment. That was for, it started out just with Italian emergency medicine residents, but now has expanded to lots and lots of countries, to come to the States for an observership, to sort of see emergency medicine here, where it's been around for a while, see how we train residents, see what the system looks like, what's our scope of practice, and really most importantly, what is our identity as emergency physicians? Because everyone that's here understands emergency medicine is not the same everywhere. But I think that that's not something that I would say even in the medical community, most people are aware of. And so there's not a lot of opportunities that exist for international doctors to come to the US to learn in, any capacity. And what I was trying to do was sort of make a mini residency modeled after my own residency to sort of get the whole scope of the specialty from, different types of hospitals, different patient populations, different capabilities, to provide the tools for people to take home with them. The idea being for people to learn from us, to learn what could help them at home, to be able to go home and start making change from within in other countries, particularly focusing on places where emergency medicine is new, or in some cases not even recognized yet as a specialty. A lot of what was in that chapter, in the first chapter, about skipping stages and, going from early stuff to jumping all the way to a ventilator, or jumping all the way to, a bake system. That's kind of what I'm trying to do. We started emergency medicine in the US 50 plus years ago. We don't need to reinvent the wheel in every single country. They can use what we've done and learn from our mistakes to jump forward and be caught up with modern emergency medicine and not have to go through all those growing pains. The idea started just based on my own experiences. And, as I said in my bio, there's a lot of stuff that I have learned in my life that I had to go and do the experience and see for myself. And I've done a number of exchange programs starting when I was in college. And that was sort of what led me to this, just seeing this in front of me and also not knowing before I did these experiences what emergency medicine was like in other countries. And, by going and seeing it for myself, the one of the last times I went, which was my elective during residency, when I spent some time in a hospital in Rome, which is one of the biggest hospitals in Italy. It's a wide referral center. They accept transfers. They have all the specialty services. And going there and seeing what the state of the actual emergency department was like was really a shock. And it wasn't the first time I had experienced that, but, you guys are working from Pakistan, which, has a different levels of economic things in different places in different parts of the country. I was working in a supposedly high income country that you would expect to have a different level of emergency care, and what I found was that's not the case in this specialty in particular, because it's new. And it's not that they don't have the capabilities in general, but you need training, you need guidance, you need standardization, you need a lot of things to develop. How do you make room for a new specialty in a system that's already been there for a while, without stepping on toes, with getting the respect that you deserve? That's a huge challenge. And that's really a different challenge than what I've seen in a lot of places where, you're going into a low middle income country and trying to develop something from scratch. This is a very different type of thing where you're sort of trying to squeeze yourself into a developed healthcare system. And I just remember literally sitting in the department, as a resident, thinking to myself with different patients and things that I was seeing, I was like, God, I wish I could take people home with me and show them how we would do this at home. That's really the thought that came to me. And that's what I did. I said, okay, well, why can't I? I've done all these exchange programs, and I think this would be great. And I think a lot of people would be interested. So I spent a long time working to develop that myself and shape it the way that I thought would be the most helpful for others.
Oh, amazing. Okay. So I'm completely mesmerized by, because there's inspiration here, there's motivation, there's passion here. So you're kind of checking off on all of those things. And empathy, right? So because you empathized with people, you empathize with yourself as well. So one of the first things in the design thinking process, or in innovation as well, for that matter, is you empathize, right? And you start defining the problem through empathy. So that's not a direct I guess, link to what we were going to be, what this session is about, but these things are always there now. So that's why I just wanted to highlight. And your story actually makes it, and I want to highlight right now that the topic of today's session, cross-border care, advancing emergency medicine through international exchange, is so relevant because of Lexi's startup initiative. It is about global learning, It's about global learning, exchange, international emergency medicine, and so on and so forth. So I think there's method to the madness. I mean, we don't. It wasn't just a random thing that we named this session, or Zanera named this session what she did. She came up with this title, right? So I think the synergies are pretty amazing. And so thank you for telling us your story. Okay, but so tell us a bit more about MGLEX. So what have what so far, what have you found, or what are your results? I mean, to what stage have you got this to?
Sure.
Have you published your findings? Are you interested in looking at this? It is about learning, right? So in one aspect, obviously, is learning. So are you collecting data on this
Yes.
as an initiative itself?
Yes. So it started out as an experiment, like I said, and actually in 2016 was our first experiment. And then from 2018 to 2020 the program was up and running just with Italian residents. Then for the obvious reasons, it had to stop in 2020. But then, in the next year when I was thinking, okay, things can maybe start up again soon, that was when I started the nonprofit to have that home base, like you said, to have an entity to represent what I'm trying to do. And since then, it's expanded to lots of different places, which was really the vision I had for it in the first place. And you're right, I wanted to see, is this making a difference? Is this doing something? And the first time around, 2018, 2020 was sort of, like I said, started as an experiment. So I wasn't really keeping track of it. I was just sort of busy doing it. Now, because I really want to continue to expand this and make it better and continue to make improvements and see how we can have the best impact, I have started doing some surveys of all of the participants, in addition to a retrospective survey of the prior program, to take a look at different sort of data points and different topics. And obviously it's subjective. It's asking a person who, did the program before and after the program, how do you feel, the program impacted your understanding of this or that, or, communication, or this type of patient population, or do you understand the training system better, things like that, and asking them questions about common and important parts of the specialty. Do you feel that your experience made a difference in your understanding of this? The idea being, you can't unsee it once you've seen it. What are you going to do with it now? And to have some sort of data about the impact that that's having on people once they've actually returned home, and to follow along with them as they continue on in their careers and their training, or as an attending, and to see what sort of changes they've made based on their experience. So not only do I have the surveys, but I keep in touch with as many of the people from the program as I can. Whenever we have conferences, international conferences in particular, I try to have get-togethers to just say, hey, how's it going? Tell me what's new. What are you working on? And it's been just anecdotally great to see some of the things that the past participants have done, not just from this iteration of the program since last year, but from 5 years ago. A number of the people that participated have started their own simulation programs, started new residency programs, started things that I was really hoping to see. And it's really satisfying to see that. And it's not only important to have the data to show that I'm doing something, that it is actually having an impact. And yes, I am working on a paper to get that published soon. We just completed the first year of MGLEX as MGLEX last month. So now that we have a full year of data, I'm working on putting that all together and showing others the impact that we've had. But it's sort of, just like I tell my participants, the feedback we get as residents here is so great. We get so much feedback to tell us what we're doing well, what we need to work on. I do the same for myself. It's important to get feedback about what's doing well, what's working, but also what they feel like isn't as strong, so that I can address that. And I've made changes to the program as a result, more of this, less of that. And I will continue to do that. And I think it's really important as a sort of checks and balances of what I'm doing, and to make sure, again, like I said, with the home base, that we're bringing it back to what the goals were in the first place. And I think there's a couple people here that actually, like Lupe, had come to the program like about a year ago, and Jenny is here, and she had done some talks in Rome, actually, back at Umberto Primo last year as well. And so in addition to just having the program, I'm trying to expand into truly an exchange, where it's not just people coming to me, but myself and my colleagues going to them in other countries and doing the talks and showing the that we care, that we care enough to show up to meet them in their home, hospital, and do these things to try to help improve things on both ends. And by doing so, the sort of tertiary nice thing that's come out of this is creating our own little global community on a different level than you get with the large organizations, where you really know someone, where you literally live together for a month or spent time together, overnight on a shift, and you feel differently about people when you have that sort of connection. And I think those sort of connections are so much nicer and so much more fruitful when people choose to work together because they really care on a personal level. And I'm really happy to see that sort of coming out of this as an unexpected benefit of people from not just from the US to other countries, but from other countries to other countries who get to live together and talk about how things work in their spaces and compare notes and see that A, you're not alone, B, someone else cares, and C, let's figure out how we can work together to tackle some of these problems.
Excellent. Great. So I'm going to pause here because Diana has a comment in the question, I guess. Diana, why rather than you
Yeah, it's a
reading it
long
out,
one. Sorry.
go ahead.
I can
Yeah. No, it's
ask
okay.
it verbally.
Sure, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm just curious, as I put in the chat, if you have any insights on how to change the mindset that people have about innovation in the emergency room. I often joke with Assad that, like, as a patient and a non-health professional, the last place I want people innovating, but he always strikes me as, opposed to that point of view, and that there's lots of good things that come from innovate. And you're sort of suggesting that through your cross-border learning discourse this morning. So I'm just wondering, what would you suggest we start to publicize about the idea of learning across borders or learning from differences? And how do you show that the innovations that can come from those kinds of interactions lead to better outcomes?
Well, that's something I'm also working on. That's the next sort of phase of the project is to show more clinical outcomes with this type of exchange of information. So I'm working on hopefully starting that project this year. But I don't have data on it yet. But, I think relationships, it would be the one word I would bring that to is, and every time I've talked to someone or asked a question at a conference of someone who's, well-known or has experience or whatever, it's always about relationships. It's always, how did you do this? How did you build this in your hospital? How did you build this program? Well, so-and-so was, married to so-and-so in the anesthesia department. So then they had a nice relationship, so they let us in. And it always starts with that. It always starts on the personal level. And it's like every other problem. You have two people that have totally different opinions about something, and they're fighting, and then you sit down and actually communicate. And it's like, oh, you're a human being too. And I think seeing that humanity in other people, especially in what makes us more human than a medical emergency, what do people share in common other than at some point in your life, you will need an emergency department, you will need an emergency doctor, and sharing those stories of how that's happened in your life or to a family member and how it's affected you, and hearing about, oh, well, maybe if this had happened to you in whatever country, they have this and this and this in place, and that could have helped you. It's like, oh, it kind of gives you a new perspective on that. And I think it all starts with relationships and communication and talking to these other places to understand why there are so many people that think it's important, why it's something that we talk about so much, but to do it for yourself and to make those connections. And I think to convince others of this, you tell stories. It's all about stories. And that's, what we're here for today is storytelling. And that's what I think brings people in, is hearing personal stories from others and having that be able to relate to your own personal experience to change the way you think about that connection to other places and learning from each other. To me, it's like, what's the downside? What's the negative, and if you sort of present it that way, that we have nothing to lose but everything to gain, and here's some stories as to why, I think that might be a good way to start. And then once you start those relationships, it just goes from there. I have another question.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, let's keep going with the questions.
The comments here, yeah. Sorry, I don't know if you wanted to, Diana, if you wanted to ask anything else, or if that answered your question. I hope it did.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you. It's I look forward to seeing what you do with the data going forward. Best wishes for that.
Thank you.
Okay, so Vakas is asking, okay, so as I understand, MGLEX aims to connect the different emergency medicine systems across the globe in hopes of improving. So in your experience, have you had any encounters with the different cultures that translate into that location's EM practices? If so, how do you homogenize those practices and adapt them to your own?
So I would say that I'm trying to connect, trying to connect different people within the systems. And I think it's not the systems themselves. I tried to go about it that way and talk to directors and people high up, and that went nowhere. My focus is really on the residents and the young attendings that are sort of the next generation of leaders to change the culture from the base. You can't go to the top and trickle down. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. But in terms of people coming up and being future leaders, that's really my focus. And so in terms of, encounters with different cultures, I think that it's been really interesting to hear about culturally how things are different in different places and how that translates to certain things in the emergency department. I would say, one example would be pain management. So I think that's something that can be managed, if you talk to people from different places, how do you manage a painful procedure, for example? And in some cases, there's like, we just tell them to tough it out. And in other cases, like, oh, we do a local. And in other cases, no, we do a general. And it's like, what causes those differences? And we've definitely talked about that, especially in the sim lab, for example, with lumbar punctures. In some places, they don't give you anesthesia. And in others, they do. And it's interesting to see that. And I don't think we necessarily homogenize them. I think it's just sort of opening people's eyes to the fact that there are different ways to do things, more so than making everybody do them the same way. And, part of what I focus on, because I have people coming from so many different countries and different cultures, is being sensitive to that and being aware of it in the first place. And having talked to people from different places and hearing about different healthcare systems, I think that's a unique thing to be able to do, to have that experience that I have had meeting people from so many different places, to have the type of understanding that I have, and to be able to approach when I teach or when we talk about different things or healthcare systems with sensitivity of the different cultural things that you might have in one place versus another, and to respect those and learn from them. And, people, they don't just have to learn from what I'm doing and from what we're doing in the US, but from each other too. And within, like I said, within my program, people from different countries that would have never met each other any other way live together for a month all of a sudden and get a very deep understanding of what those differences are, and makes them think about what they're doing in a new way. And that's really the goal, is to reevaluate, why are you doing things the way you're doing them? Is it just because someone told you to, or is it because it makes sense and you understand why? And to take a step back and learn from those different practices in the different cultures, to sort of see it in a new way, to say, why am I doing it this way? Maybe I could do this better. And I think that's, like I said, with the stories and with the personal connections, that's what makes you really stop for a minute, open your eyes and say, maybe I should reevaluate this practice. So I don't think homogeneity is the answer. I think it's absolutely not the answer. I think it's learning from different practices and being sensitive to other cultures in terms of resetting in your mind framework what will work for you, and putting that into a new perspective.
Amazing. Yeah, that's it's insightful the way that you've put it. You've answered this question. Okay, yeah, Vikas is thanking you. So just a quick thought, like just linked to what you were talking about, right? So, the exchange fellows, students, I don't know. I mean, these are individuals who have their MDs, right? So they're already doctors. They aren't medical students who are doing an elective in the US, right? So because on this call we have a few medical students as well. So and some of them, I'm assuming, are interested in emergency medicine. But for the individuals who are part of your MGLEX program, if they come across some other way of doing something in the ED, right? Or you learn from them, or they learn from you, one of those scenarios. Do you think the certification process, or the competency based something, like does that really facilitate, or does that just add to frustration of individuals, because at times you might not be able to implement something that should be done, but because your setting doesn't allow it,
Mhm.
then how do you just, how can you implement then, if I'm making sense?
Sure. Yeah, I think I understand. So I think you're talking about competency-based training like we have in the US. Yeah, so what I always say to them, I'll just sort of paraphrase, is I don't want or think it's a good idea to copy and paste what we do here in other places. We have plenty of our own issues and challenges and things that could be done better. And so do I think that everything's perfect? No, I don't think anything's perfect anywhere. I think everyone needs to continuously try to be improving. So what I tell them is pick and choose what would work within your time, your frame, your hospital, your residency, your country, your culture, what your culture views about your healthcare system. That's an important one. I'll use Italy as an example, just because that's where really my work started. Italy is very, very proud of its healthcare system for good reason. They have great care that's free for everyone, everywhere you go, and they're very, very proud of that and the accessibility of the care. And wonderful. And I commend them for having that type of system. But when it comes to emergency medicine, there's a hole. The quality of the care and the ability to provide emergency care varies drastically from place to place. And so though you can depend on a free and accessible healthcare system, they're working in a different place with a different culture and a different set of resources, but the concept can be translated. And I think, it's important that people see that with what's the reason that this is being done versus this is just the way it's, it's bottom up versus top down learning. It's like, what's the concept that we're trying to do here? Feedback and ability to help someone out before they're done with their training with weak spots or things like that versus do it exactly this way. And that's the whole goal, that I want people to take things in their own contexts to translate them to work for them and not just copy paste what we do here.
Excellent. Lot of learning over here. So this is a question based on your travel to different places, okay? And it might be like asking you like who's your favorite child, perhaps, but which country, which international location did you enjoy the most?
Well, I have to. You can look at my travel history, and the answer would probably be Italy. But that's probably just because a little bit of nostalgia from my own time when it was when I studied abroad in college, and it was my first time leaving the country, and I just had such a wonderful experience there in Bologna, which was my first place that I lived. It's also just easy because I speak the language and I know the place, and it's like a second home. And I have so many friends there, but a new perspective. And that's why I keep talking about that, is that, I travel as much as I can to try to go and do hospital visits and site visits and just like, show me what you do. And I take a tour and I talk to all the people. And that's how I've gained this knowledge, is literally just sort of cold calling places sometimes and saying, hey, can I come visit your hospital? And we actually have Giovanni Ricevuti, who's here from Pavia, is an example of that. And he's someone that I found out, connected via someone else and said, hey, can I come visit your hospital? And this was years and years ago. And here we are today, still friends. We've worked together many times. He's hosted me many times. And that's just, a very off point of what you were asking. But I think it's a great example of those connections and where they lead. And, how important that is for me to maintain those relationships too, and not just be like, hey, see you in 10 years, but actually keep in touch with people and build on the relationships that you start. But, not just Italy, but everywhere I've gone has been really welcoming and positive about what we're trying to do. And, I think having the ability to go and do that in person is really crucial to showing, like I said, showing that you care, showing that you're willing to make the effort and show up for someone, that, you're there for the right reasons. I think I got way off of your question, but
No, that was fine. I was just I was trying to probe you and say, okay, let's see what you have to say. No, it makes sense, right? So Jennifer has a comment. I think, yes, it's a comment. Also, your question is great. Well, thank you. I think in the same country. Oh, okay. Sorry, surprise. All right, something's happening. Can you hear the
Yeah.
sound?
I'm sorry, I
Okay,
can't
fine.
turn on
So,
my video, but
no,
I'll
no,
just.
that's fine. That's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, it's kind of like a rapid fire thing, and I don't think you guys need much instructions. So, favorite book on innovation, Alexandra. Alexandra, would you like to go first?
Oh, favorite book on innovation. Well, I
It's
just
rapid.
started reading books about this, so I'm gonna go with this one because it's
Oh.
the introduction, and Assad actually kind of made this whole world that exists about innovation and everything to introduce that to me. So that's my
Dr.
answer.
Asad.
Oh, I'll go with this book because Lexi spoke about this, so
You
I
guys are
also go with
biased.
this. Medjack. No,
Okay.
actually, no. Well, okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Top 3 qualities of a successful innovator in emergency medicine or general.
3 qualities:
Yeah.
dedication, good communication skills,
Mm-hmm.
and ability to think creatively.
Cool. Dr. Asad, same for you.
Can I share? Can I use Lexi's answers? No, I
No,
cannot.
be
I guess.
creative.
Be creative. I think risk taker, ability to take risks, calculated risks, okay, openness, and being adaptable or resilient.
Okay, good. One word to describe your approach to problem solving. Lexi.
Strategic.
Good. You, Dr. Asad.
Creative.
Okay. Biggest challenge you've overcome in
Creative.
implementing. Okay. Biggest challenge you've overcome in implementing a creative solution. That's for you, Dr. Asad, first you.
Biggest challenge, okay. Biggest challenge in implementing a creative
It's
solution. Yeah, so not
fast.
having, not having the backing of the organization.
Okay. Now, Alexandra.
Knowing anybody that I could how to communicate to the people that I wanted in my program that the program existed. Not having the network and the email list.
Quick tip for fostering a culture of continuous improvement. Like Dr. Alexandra, if you'd like to go first.
Feedback. Need feedback to make improvement.
And
Dr.
I
Sid.
would say constant audits or frequent audits.
Most innovative medical technology you've seen recently.
Probably the butterfly ultrasound when that came out. That was a big game changer.
Yeah.
I think I would like to say something to do with open AI, generative AI. I've used it in such a way that it's
okay. Preferred platform for staying updated in medical advancements.
Well,
Social
personally,
platform.
at least at work, I use UpToDate all the time.
Interestingly, I would say I'm picking up a lot from LinkedIn through conversation and chatter, but I know those folks because I follow them.
Okay, this one's a bit cliche, but name a role model who inspires your approach to innovation.
Ooh, you go first. I gotta think about that one.
Okay, good question. Innovation. I think Khan Siddiqui. He's been a mentor. He's Chicago based, by the way. Let's see.
Gosh, this is a hard one. I gotta think about this. I don't have an answer right now. I'll think about it.
Okay, I'm gonna give you some time. Okay, this one's for Lexi only. Like, what's the name for your adopted cats? I saw in the bio you had cats.
Well, right now we just have one. She's around here somewhere. Her name is Cosette. We call her Cece.
Oh, cute name. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
That was fun. I had a good time. Thank you for that, Zanera. And we've kind of like, we've reached 45 minutes, but the conversation has been pretty good, actually. I mean, this is based on how I've been running these webinars, Lexi. And so, you know, there've been comments, there've been questions. Okay, I forgot. I don't think I completed the comment that Jennifer had. Let me just go through that. So this was based on my question about competency-based curricula, and Lexi, you addressed that. So Jennifer saying that the question, those frustrations can even occur between one hospital to another in the same country. I completely agree with that. We have different resources in different hospitals here, say in the same city, and different rules by admin at different. Very true. So it doesn't even have to be between countries. It's the same damn city and yeah, with different
Same here.
hospitals. So.
I mean, Chicago's a big city, so we have a lot of that, and I work in a few different places. So that's yeah. I'm gonna call on some people now just because I want to hear from some other people. So Jenny, if you could just say 2 words about your experience going to do your talk last year. And then if Lupe could say 2 words about her experience in Chicago. I'm curious, I've got you here and you have to answer because we're talking. What your thoughts are and your experience, and if you have any comments about what we've talked about relating to that.
I would say it was a wonderful experience. I did not know what I was getting myself into. So preparing for it was like, I don't know what your resources are and what I'm going into with the simulation lab, but it was wonderful. And I saw the challenges they had were some of the similar challenges that we have in New York City, but also different challenges. And I think from simulation, they're at least getting to see how resuscitation can be more organized. And I think that's one thing that hopefully the younger generation can slowly bring, because I know it's going through a hierarchy in any hospital is not easy, but to slowly bring that. But I would say that their welcome was wonderful, and I would be happy to return at any point in time.
I'm glad you had a good time. So Jenny went and did a day of speaking and simulation in Rome at Umberto Primo, where my whole thing started as a guest speaker last year for MGLEX. And then Lupe, who came to me last January, she was in the first group of MGLEX as MGLEX. So she was in Chicago with us, and I've seen her a few times since. But if you're listening, Lupe, could you say a couple words?
Yeah. Well, for me, it was amazing because I couldn't find any another option to do interchange, and this was an amazing opportunity for me. And when I was doing my interchange in Chicago, I didn't understand a lot of things in the practice of the doctors in emergencies departments there. But now I am in the committee of the ethical and safety in Europe, and now we are starting to improve that part of the emergency medicines, and now all the things that I learned in Chicago make sense, because I learned that the best way to improve our service to the population is to do that kind of interchange. Of this way, you can learn, you can know another people. Of this way, you can work in another like research or commits or a lot of things. And then I think it's a good way in emergency medicine to improve that kind of relations and make and help that another people can do that kind of interchange in several countries. I think is a great opportunity, and thank you.
Thank you. And I'm happy to hear this. This is exactly what I'm hoping will happen is people, Lupe is awesome. She's from Ecuador, but she's working in Spain where they're trying to get recognition of the specialty. And this is sort of, my idea is making my little sleeper agents going home and, getting in from the bottom and doing exactly what I was hoping, which is making a difference. And obviously she is doing that. And I'm hoping other people will too. And yes, I've also had people from my program from one country who came here go via me to a different country for another exchange experience. So I'm glad she said that, because that's another thing you can kind of ping pong off each other. But having those relationships, having those ideas, seeding that fire behind people to make those changes, that's really the goal. And I think that, there's a lot of things that I'm hoping to still learn from you, Asad, about innovation and entrepreneurship and, making this work on the functional level, but to continue the work on the practical level that I've started with this program, and to inspire this in other places with other people as well.
Oh, great. Yeah. Happy to kind of work with you on this interchange or exchange program. And yeah, I would like to learn from you as well, because the way you've done these things through exchange programs of this nature. I think it's fascinating. So much one can learn from that. Also an opportunity to kind of go to different places, because I've always been wondering, okay, when at some point in my life, I'd like to travel to other countries. I mean, I've trained and practiced in the US, and I'm practicing currently in Pakistan, but I think I've kind of reached that stage where offering what I have learned in a high income country and then practicing there, and then in a low middle income country, and so on and so forth, right? So so yeah, happy to work with you on this. And Lupe, I've known well for the past 2 years through ASAP International, and I'm so happy that Lupe made it to this call. So we are doing really well on time, and we wanted to kind of like let people off before the hour was up, so we could do that. But prior to that, Lexi, if you could kind of leave some words of wisdom for medical students or other students who are on this call about perhaps innovation. Let's keep it relevant to innovation and going to different places, learning from different cultures, and how does that impact innovation, and what should they be thinking about?
Sure. Well, the first thing I would say is if you're interested in global emergency medicine, awesome, we need you. Please do not give up. Please continue with it. Go with what you love. Go with what you care about. The biggest thing I would say is you may think you know what you want to do, but you don't. Keep an open mind, because you will meet people, especially in this type of field, you will meet people in places, at conferences, on trips, and whatever, that will change their trajectory. I promise you. Keep an open mind and think about new things you never thought about. I mean, I could never have imagined that my career would be where it is now, that it would have taken this direction. It was not in my plans. It just kind of happened. And I went with it. I saw opportunities, and I was like, okay, noted. And I put the idea in the back burner, and I brought it back later. It's like, oh, I know this person in this place. Now I can make this connection. So keep your mind open for, new directions, for people that might shape your experiences, and keep in touch with people. Keep in touch with people you meet. Maintain those relationships, because you never know when, someone will come to mind and you want to connect them with someone else, or you have a new idea. And, so that's a place to start. My next piece of advice was put yourself in the places where you want to be. Go to conferences, cold call people, email people, ask people for new connections, for people you can meet. You're going on a trip for fun, you're going on a family vacation, you're going on whatever. Take one day to go meet someone new in that country. Take a half a day to go to a hospital and see how they do things, and take a tour. And I promise you, most places, they'll be very welcoming for a guest to come and share and talk and learn and meet you. And that's truly what I did to build the network that I have now. That's literally how I did it. So do that. Go meet people, put yourself in there. And I keep saying it, but it makes an impact when you show that you're willing to make that effort. It really does. And then, just email people, get involved. I personally have a number of medical students and even college students and interns and people that I work with that are interested in getting involved in the field. It's never too early. Send me an email, send Hassad an email, send other people. The worst thing that happens is you don't get a response. Whatever, but I think most people that you ask would be very happy to have you, sort of tag along or work with them or be involved in some way, even as a college student, let alone a medical student. Everyone in the international emergency medicine field needs all the help we can get. So we're happy to have you help out. And you're a smart person. Just because you're not at the end of your training, you're not finished yet, that doesn't mean you're not capable and smart and motivated and have something to contribute. So remember that. Don't get discouraged. Just try to keep pushing until you get to the right people, and it'll happen. You just have to keep working on it and keep an open mind.
Excellent. Great words, and thank you so much. Over to Zanera.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alexandra and Dr. Asad, for a very insightful session. Truly, I've learned a lot just by hearing, and I'm keeping myself motivated. And I'll be reaching out to you through email.
Of course. Yes,
Yeah.
please. And I mean that if you're listening or you're watching or whatever, please, if you're interested or you want to know more about what I'm doing, because I can't fit it all into 45 minutes, but I'd be happy to talk to you anytime. And happy if you're, looking to get involved, or you just want to think about participating in the program in the future when you're a resident. That's great. Just please get in touch. You'll have my contact information, and I'm happy to talk to you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so that I'd like to end the session, although I don't wanna. Okay, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you
all. Thank
all.
you for
Thank you.
coming,
Night.
everybody. I really appreciate
Good
it.
night
And thank
and
you,
good
Asad.
evening.
Thank you. Great talk.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
day, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.